All right, good afternoon. So I'm going to start my conversation with you with a statement that is actually triggering my brain for the years to come. This morning we heard about brain science, or brain health, or AI, and how our future might be impacted. But there is another big revolution coming up, which is part of this movement, I would say, with the generalization of data, which is something that at the end might sum up our lives with a number. So imagine a future where your entire life would be just measured by a number. What would be this number, what it should represent, and where would it be coming from? Would you get a certain score based on the way you drive, on the way you behave, on the way you eat, on the way you communicate? That might be effectively the future of all of us, and all of the companies in this room are more or less concerned with what that might become. And this is actually the cover of Wired magazine last year at the CES. So the CES, I'm sure you all know what that is, but that's the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And it was the cover of the magazine last year, where they said, effectively, imagine 3 digits that dictate your place in society. And I heard recently in the press that in China, and I need to confirm that, but so don't quote me, I'm going to check that information, that some access to some social services in China are related to a certain score that you get. So I need to double check that. But we start to see effectively access to some social services, which might mean at the end that you might access different types of services or information based on the certain score that you get or that you will get in the future, which will be an aggregation of several scores that you get from your various services. So that's a pretty scary area and a pretty scary future. And of course, at Nestlé, we are looking at one leg or one element of what that score might be, which is something that we call the nutrition score. Because of course, you and I don't necessarily need the same food. We don't necessarily need the same nutrients in the food that we eat. And overall, you could position yourself in a better state, health status, based on what you eat. So design is, of course, a way to get there and a way to create some varied different experiences. And the world I live in, and the world that most of us live in, is this world of design thinking that has shown the path as to how to develop better consumer experiences. And when you think about what I've just said before, it is about if our life is going to be dictated by a certain number or by a certain score, then what kind of experiences should we design, should we create for our customers, for our clients, in order for them to be better positioned for the future? I've had the chance in my career at Roche, Novartis, and Nestlé to interact with some of the best creative agencies in the world, which forged actually my design culture, which I'm now rolling out at Nestlé with a certain network of 40 designers that we have worldwide that are contributing to the development of new products and services that we create for you as consumers. And this team of designers, plus all of the partners that we have evolved the focus in terms of what we used to work on in the past, which was packaging and products, which has evolved into systems with the George Clooney's and the others, and which is now evolving towards services, which means new business models for Nestlé. And you must have seen in the press that we've made recent acquisitions into some, for example, Freshly, which is a company delivering new types of recipes and meals at home. And there are more and more of those services that the company will acquire in the future, or also that we will develop internally. So the spectrum of design and the scope of design and the focus of our designers has clearly evolved over the years, even if, of course, we are still doing products and packaging, which is the root, and that we will do for a certain number of years ahead. So what is design at the end? Design has different angles, different dimensions, and there is one piece that relates to the most obvious one, which is symbols, graphics, and really what we call the first order design. Then the second order design relates to the things, to the objects, what we call product design or industrial design. The third order design relates to apps, websites, we talk about actions or user interface design. And the fourth order relates to systems, and we often talk about organizational design. Design thinking is a tool that has been publicized over the years, first with a book that was published by Tim Brown in 2009, so it's exactly 10 years ago that Tim Brown published his book where he said, okay, the impact of designers could be much broader if we give them a chance to work on broader perspectives. And this is what he stated at that time as a definition of design thinking, which is still true, but it's a bit of a lengthy definition. So what I prefer in the world of design anyway is a visual. And the methodology of design is actually a certain discipline. It's not a process, but it's actually this double diamond visual that you see here, which gives the opportunity to the different teams to diverge, converge, by doing research and analyzing those research, and then come to a certain point of view, which allows then the teams to ideate, prototype, and then test and learn. So design has been publicized, as I said, through design thinking and several communications in the press, in books, and so forth. And we have seen in the past few years a lot of acquisitions, a lot of valuation of companies which were valuated at higher prices due to the nature of their founders being designers. And we have seen as well more VCs entering into the design space than in the past. And when we look at actually big, large companies, there were a lot of acquisitions in the past years. So some of them, like us, have grown their internal design teams. Some other companies have acquired design studios or design agencies in order to broaden their perspective and acquire some knowledge that they didn't have. I think what is interesting here to see, particularly, I mean, the ones that for me are the most relevant are BCG or McKinsey acquiring creative design agencies, which shows how to complement actually the skills of business consultants with the skills of designers. So design thinking is about innovation, of course. It's about the discipline that we bring to the innovation process, and it's about people desirability, technology feasibility, and business viability. And we are all using design thinking in order to improve our products, our services, our platforms, and our organizations. And of course, I mean, you didn't mention Kodak, but I was, about to mention Kodak. And when I was actually a teenager, and when Kodak started to have its problem, there was a cool guy on the beach that maybe you remember. And that cool guy was having a phone that I found really cool on top of his car, of course. But the phone was really cool, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is so cool. If only I could have a phone like this, that would be fantastic. And what we are being told is cool is actually this type of devices. And we don't really know where it's going to go. We don't really know what's going to happen to those. But it looks like the new, right? And these guys might have required designers in the process, because when initially this idea sparked in the mind of an engineer or of a technologist, there is a high likelihood that the first prototype looked like this. Possibly. That's a possibility, I'm not sure. So design at the end is about people and experiences, and the role of designers is to make technology interesting, attractive, and desirable. And we live in a world today where people share experiences 24/7. So the way you design your experiences is truly important. And when we look a bit closer at what is an experience, it is a product or a service that has a user, a context of purchase, use, and so forth, and a certain number of times. And when we look closer at some experiences, we are sometimes confused. That was, for example, something that happened to me once. I was in a parking lot in the US, and I wanted to pay the parking, and this is what happened to me. So it can clearly show that the initial design was probably not right. If you have to put all these stickers on it, it means there's something wrong, right? So that's the thinking that sometimes you need to have in the design mindset in order to create the flawless experience possible. And I'm sure you've seen that recently. It was somewhere on LinkedIn, but that's a typical Apple product, that's a typical Google product, and most likely, and I'm not claiming that we are better than that, your company app most likely look like this, right? So this is where and why you need designers in your different teams. Now, one of the mistakes we often make when we are creating new services or new products or new experiences, we see our consumers using our products and we focus on our consumers using our products. But in reality, there is a whole context behind it. And we have to fit into this particular context. We have to understand what is our role in the context that we want people to use our products. And this requires a different thinking. So a great product is not enough. This is now a given, and we have several demonstrations of this. And I'm going to start with Lego, which is a company that has demonstrated its ability to go beyond actually the initial design and the initial product, first by creating some various SKUs directed to different targets, then entering into the movie industry, then getting into the apparel industry, and quite successfully over the years, thanks to the heavy investment that they've made into the design teams. Another company that maybe is less known is actually Monster Cable. This is a company that used to produce the best cables on the market for the audio industry. And at the point of time, looking at trends, looking at technology, they just thought, okay, what might we do that would really generate a new business model for us? And I've created that brand that I'm sure you know of, which is Beat, by partnering with a famous music producer. And at the end, they succeeded into selling their company to Apple for a substantial amount of money. So that's an evidence that effectively looking beyond and looking outside, with your core capabilities, you can certainly create new business models. And the one which has been largely publicized was Nike when they decided to go beyond their shoes to enter into the space of quantified running. Is also an example of going out of your boundaries and thinking out of the box. And when you see the type of experiences that they are delivering now, I mean, you can clearly see that everything is experiential, is designed to provide a superior experience to the consumers, which will then obviously point consumers towards their product. There is one particular designer that I like, that I've collaborated with in the past years. His name is Yves Béard. He's Swiss, but he's based in San Francisco, and he has a design agency named Fuse Project. And this guy has been smart enough to effectively establish his company or his agency in San Francisco about 20 years ago. At that time, he didn't have much money, and the startups he was working with didn't have much money, so he was looking for ways to be paid. And the smart deal he found at that time was to be paid in shares. And luckily for him, he partnered with successful startups such as Airbnb and some others. And of course, he became a multimillionaire by having invested his time in the exchange of shares. And thanks to this success, his company or his agency became more popular. And as you can see here, he sold 75% of his shares for 50 million, which shows also the success and the investment that is going into that area of design. And Yves is, of course, a bright and successful designer. And he has a statement about design that I really like and that I would like to share with you, which is core to the message I would like to convey to you today, which is that design is about how you treat your customers. And when you think about this, this to me opens a slightly different perspective of what is design and what is the job of designers. Because we all know, and as you said, that design is about beauty, but it's not just about beauty. This is about effectively providing a superior experience to the users. And at the end, this is about how you treat your customers. And you were talking about Nespresso, and you were talking about effectively a great design that we have successfully developed over the years and enhanced over the years. And all of the learnings that we gathered through that particular development are now embedded into the new types of experiences and new types of services that we are developing for our users. And you must have seen in the press in the past years, maybe 3-4 years now, that we are heavily investing into personalized nutrition. Once again, because you and I don't need the exact same type of food. And the level of understanding of knowledge of nutrition is very low today. And Nestlé has embarked into a journey on effectively educating consumers about what's in the food, not just the calories or not just the carbs or the proteins, but really what are the nutrients. And the nutrients are at the end, I like all the oil that are in the parts of your car. So it means that in your car you are putting gasoline, which might correspond to the calories, but the nutrients are really what makes your body function. And these are essential for your body to function and for your health to be maintained in a sustainable way. So we as designers at Nestlé are investing some time into developing and designing new types of products and services that would deliver ultimately a superior quality of personalized nutrition. So this is just to illustrate the scope that from the chocolate that you might know or from the coffee that you might know, Nestlé is evolving. And as I said again, we'll still keep on delivering the good products that we have, but it's also looking into the future, into how AI plays a role into this. And us as designers are really involved and embedded into this deep thinking. And I said earlier that design is about how you treat your customers, but design is an activity that is very often, I would say, minimized into organizations. So despite the, I would say, publicity around design thinking, the role of designers in organization is not always valued or not always recognized, or it's quite often summarized down to a sketch. You know, oh, you're a designer, you know how to draw. But there is much more to do than that. And particularly, the role of design depends on the scope and the potential you give to designers to express themselves, and it all relates to the position you give to design in the organization. So far, there are only few designers that have the rightful title of Chief Design Officer. There is Jonathan Ive at Apple, and there is Mauro Porcini at Pepsi. So these are two, I would say, prestigious roles that these guys have been battled for years, and we see actually the quality of the work they do. We see the value it creates for the company. So at the end, what I would like to convey as well as a message is that how you treat your customers is also about how you treat design and how you position design within your respective companies. And the business value of design relates, again, to the scope and to the opportunity you give to designers to express themselves and to improve the quality of your products and services. And there was a study published recently by McKinsey, which is called The Business Value of Design. It has been published probably a month ago or something like this, which I can only recommend to you because it states as well how to measure and quantify the value of design on your business. So that's a good reading for the weeks to come, or maybe for the flights that you take back. And that's all I wanted to share with you today. So thanks a lot. And remember that the great thing about the future is that you can design it.